Um, just before we get cracking into that, can I just ask you a question, Chris? Because about the pre-treatment, and you said that there's 3 different pre-treatments that you can use, and they're all equally as good. Surely one's going to be cheaper than another, and therefore is going to be the one that everybody uses.
Well, the idea of the standard is not to differentiate anything on cost. So it's performance we're looking for, not cost. The use of any of the pre-treatment systems is up to the particular applicator who would choose them, and they would then look at perhaps the costs, but also they may look at what they consider to be the performance as well. So there are benefits to each of the different types, and there are cost and advantages or disadvantages with each of them. But from a standards point of view, we're really only looking at the performance of them.
Right. Fair enough. Yes. Do you want to comment on that, Mo?
Yes, I think Chris is absolutely right. But what these mean that they're all equal, they're equal to a specific criteria or criterion that actually they meet. So by that, each one of them have passed certain tests to a certain standard. So that's when they're all equal. Then you have other aspects of different pre-treatments that come in after that. But the statement is correct that they're all sort of perform to a standard, yes. But afterwards there is differences. But that's not as Chris mentioned, then the requirement comes in. What are you using it for, and where, and so on. That plays a role.
Okay, let's kick this off with a little question for you. What factors would you consider most important when producing a performance specification for powder coating? Nice open question there. Well, basically, I'm talking about things like presumably location would come into that specification. If you're talking about, against the coast, you've got guarantee requirements and so on.
Yeah, I think that the location of the project, the end use of the project, the defined project life that you're looking for would be important factors in that when you're choosing what product to specify within the powder coating choices, because there are a vast array of different durability of powder product, and the way you do things to achieve better performance in different locations can be different. So it is important to make sure that you've chosen the one that fits with your project, yeah.
So it may not be just the coastal erosion type factors, but it could be pollution and things like that, presumably, could it?
Absolutely. And in QUALICOAT, we have working groups working specifically to improving the different parameters of the architectural powder-coated articles. So it's important to understand from the very beginning, from design, from location, they're fed all the way through for you to get a very durable finish and a long-standing building. So from that point of view, the performance of the powder itself, the performance of the pre-treatment, which is an important factor, and as you've been hearing, we've introduced the other pillar to our specification, which is the aluminium or the alloy itself. So all this will be addressed into producing a very long-standing and durable building. And that's what we're after. Because I always say we are in the fashion industry in buildings. And that's what we do. But for long-standing finish, we need to do lots of things to get there.
I mean, does colour come into it? It's interesting you mentioned fashion there, but does that alter the lifespan of powder coating different colours and so on?
Absolutely, but I'm not the expert at that, but I can tell you that does, because certain colours and certain pigments does not pass certain of our tests. So, they come under different criteria. The technology is always advancing, and we're getting more and more robust, even in different color families. Because in QUALICOAT we have different color families, and that they put together to make sure that the testing is actually applicable to them all. And my powder manufacturing colleagues maybe can expand on that more. But I think that's definitely an issue that we're addressing.
Yeah, there's certain pigments that we use aren't as UV stable, which they have been sort of taken off the list of QUALICOAT approved colours when it comes to the super durable. So the actual coating itself, in terms of the polyester resin, is UV stable, but it's the pigments themselves which are restrictive in that respect.
So would that influence guarantees and warranties?
Well, if it's not on the list, then we wouldn't push it forward as a super durable system.
Right.
So yes, for a standard durability, you'll be looking up to sort of 25, 30 years warranty. For super durable, you're up to 40 years. However, with certain pigmentations, certain colours, they wouldn't be available as a super durable coating.
Right.
So it's important for an architect or specifier to understand this. So education, this is what we're trying to do. Educate to make sure that they might have this fantastic looking vision of a building, but they need to communicate that to all the for better word, supply chain, for them to actually say this is achievable and achievable in a durable fashion.
Right, on to another one. Angus threw one in here for me, saying, how would you characterise the differences between the QUALICOAT specification and the revised BES EN 12206-1 2021 issued in May 2021?
Well, I think Chris sort of...
That was, you were kind of on that. weren't you?
That's right. My take on that, if you'd like to know, is it's a cliche. I always say it. I've been, all over the world saying it, that QUALICOAT is actually a specification. So we have lots of standards within our specification. So I always say that as a specifier architect, when you actually mention the QUALICOAT, you're taking a lot of the due diligence that you have to do out, because we've done it. And I'm not saying we're perfect yet, but in fact, a lot of it is actually taken care of. And a standard such as 12206, very important because it's a performance standard that we need in the field, and say companies or plants that don't have the QUALICOAT, they can still say, I meet 12206, and some of them do. It's not something that, so some of them do, and it's good, it's a good standard, but the difference is QUALICOAT is a specification. So we have the pre-treatment taken care of. We have the coating itself taken care of, and we have the application, the applicators taken care of, and further now we have the alloy taken care of, and no standard in the world does that. So it's a great asset for specifiers and architects.
But is the QUALICOAT standard actually lower than the BS
See,
standard?
I correct you, a specification. We are not a standard.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, if it's the QUALICOAT specification then,
Yes.
you view visual defects at 3 meters. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
But under the British standard, it's 1 meter.
Yes. Yeah.
So surely that is a stronger standard.
It's perceived as such, and if you like, it can be seen in that fashion. If you like, if you're just looking at certain aspects of it, and if you like, if you look at the 12206, the revised one, I think Chris would agree with me, they've come closer to us than we've come to, and so we're, although in the UK, we are very much focused, and rightly so in my opinion, that's my personal opinion, not my all colleagues, that we would like to look at things much closer, but worldwide that is not the case. Because when we have these discussions worldwide, and I've had them all over the place, that is not as important to them as it is in the UK. Because they say, one or two of them has actually said to me that we look through the window rather than at the frame of the window.
Right, okay. It just seems a slightly strange one, and you were smiling at it, Chris. Go on, I've got to have your...
Well, perhaps because I go back further to the old British standard, and that is that's what clients we find, is certainly in the UK, insist on, that they don't want to be standing 3 meters away from something and saying, I can or can't see that. They want to stand at a meter. They understand that that's how far it is, and that's how far I have to stand away. Maybe as a new generation of people come through who've got more used to 3 meters, they will stand that bit further away. But I think that most of the clients we know want to stand a metre away. And I have to say, whatever the rules say, the client decides. And if he's standing a metre away and he doesn't like it, you can argue as much as you like that it meets the standard or it doesn't. He's not going to have it on his building. That's what happens.
So should a specifier actually be putting in both BS and QUALICOAT in as a performance specification into the same specifying?
I don't see any reason why they can't, and a lot of them do, and they are often taking what they perceive to be the higher requirement from each part and putting them in, and there's no reason why they can't do that.
And that's quite a regular thing, is it?
I believe so, yeah.
That's correct, yes. I mean, because you can have qualifications on even like we as a QUALICOAT applicator, we say this is to the QUALICOAT, our lead specification is QUALICOAT. But if say, as Chris rightly say, in the UK, we say that for visual requirements, we comply with EN, BS EN 12206. So that's a meter. So we can do that, and as Chris rightly says, that's what the requirements is in the UK. So we comply with it. If we do things for European market, we don't have to,
Right.
because that's more accepted, the 3 meters viewing distance. So.
And that's not confusing for a specifier when they're having to...
But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, because it's actually, what is the requirement? And only if you are in the UK, which we are blessed with eminent architects, which we will actually impact worldwide our requirements. And that's a process of progress, if you like. Eventually we might be able to change the Europeans to our way of thinking, but at the moment predominantly Europe, but you have the Far East now, which is from point of view of requirements and need, there is much more of it out there. There's a lot of our architects which are going to the Far East, which they require the QUALICOAT, and believe it or not, require the 1 meter viewing distance. So a lot of the architects and specifier are educated enough, but I agree with you. If you are pushing me to come on a clear statement, yes, it might be to the uninitiated slightly
Bizarre?
It could be, but not to a person as myself that I lived in it. It's not. There's one requirement, there's another requirement. There is lots of other requirements and the standard, which it's complex. People look at us as coders or applicators as that. It's complex, so we need to address complex issues in different ways. So it's just one thing doesn't fit all.
Right. Does this raise any questions? Aha.
I wanted to make a contribution there. And you might be slightly surprised by my answer. I think architects are prepared to be much more reasonable than you might expect. If we're looking at the external facade of a building, very often you can't actually get within 3 meters of it.
That's right.
And if you've got 73 stories, unless you've got an abseiling or you're in a cherry picker, you're going to be a long way away. So I might write a specification that uses 1 meter on the inside, because people can actually be close up to the windows, but 3 meters are on the outside. And we have literally inspected buildings where the first thing that happens is get the tape measure out and everybody stands at precisely whatever it says in the specification. But my cautious point, it's amazing how much you can see from 3 meters. The human eye, and I've got glasses these days, but the human eye is an incredibly discerning device. So I think they're likely to be reasonable, but they're very sharp in their vision.
Sorry.
Just one question, Chris, from someone in the audience. How does workmanship fit in with specifying powder coatings in terms of, obviously, human error, I guess? Question.
Sorry, talking about workmanship working in with specifications. Yeah?
If you could elaborate,
sorry, I had a question
what
for
do you
the
mean by
floor. It was,
workmanship?
I don't know, Daniel, it's a question that's just come over on slide. Really, I think, human error, workmanship, well, I'm repeating it.
Well, from QUALICOAT point of view, if you're a QUALICOAT applicator,
Right.
it's now 3 or 4 years. Jan, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, people in the laboratories and that need to be actually trained, outside trained, not because as companies, as plants, we've grown up. A lot of our people just trained internally, but since 3 or 4 years now, we've actually had to annually send people out to be trained. So, and then when the outside inspectors or independent inspectors come in, they verify that these people who are actually carrying out these tests have been trained and achieved the required standard of workmanship.
Right. Anyone else, or are we all rushing off for lunch? We're going to rush off for lunch. Thank you very much, gentlemen.